God here. And it's football season. And it's like 100 degrees outside. Sorry about that. Welcome to Season 4 of Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 4 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I am Dave Daba in Northern California. And I don't know about you, Brad, but I'm wondering, will the Denver Bronco defense actually show up this week? That's just got to be one of the big questions. I have never seen a National Football League game like that Miami Dolphins game last week.
Yeah, there's been some strange things going on in the NFL, and the question is will I show up this week, Dave? Because last week I couldn't make it. I had to go out of town real quick with a family deal, and so we missed a week, but I'm back now, and all excited about football. And you know, I've been listening to the radio and all the guys talk about how bad Zach Wilson is and you know how bad Justin Fields is and all this kind of stuff. And we'll get into more of that later because I think both those games are on our slate of games. So
yeah,
but you know, I'm excited.
Brad, there are some stats that you just simply can't ignore. I'm just saying that. Like when you look at Zach Wilson's stats, and we can get into it later, but he's in the 30s in every category.
I mean, you know, we've been talking about it for years, but Brandon Staley, I mean, come on, that's I heard many, more than one announcer say that this week that it's inexcusable. Yeah. One guy called it coaching malpractice. I thought that was a good line.
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and dive into it. As always, we are going to give you the top 10 games worth actually spending some money on. Mr. Hoyseth, I will kick it over to you.
Yeah, my first game is, you know, two teams we already talked about, the Broncos at the Bears. The Broncos are 3.5-point favorites. I mean, that just tells you how bad the Bears have been, right? I mean, Broncos favored by 3.5 over who? I mean, really, what would the Dolphins be favored over the Bears? You know, by 50 or something? I mean, who knows? But I don't know, Dave. The Bears are at home. It's desperation mode at this point, and you know, I think we might have hit on this a couple weeks back, but you know, I think Justin Fields is kind of like a Cam Newton type player, and I just think that they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and you just need to let the kid do what he was doing the second half of last year. Let him get out and run and make plays with his feet and think on his feet. You know, they're just trying to make the kid too mechanical. I agree with them. I don't very often agree with players when they come out and make a statement, but I do agree with them in this case. And, you know, how about we quit letting the kid get hit? I mean, you know, they're trying to keep him in the pocket. They really don't have the offensive line for it. And I just kind of feel like they're not putting him in the best position to win. But I think this is the weekend where the Bears finally get something turned around. Because I think the only team that potentially looks worse than them right now is the Broncos, which kind of stunned me there that they were 3.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the Bears.
Yeah, I'm absolutely stunned by the 3.5 points I have to give up to take Sean Payton's defense, which gave up 70 points last week in that game. I look at this, and you know, my big issue with Justin Fields is the tape. And when you watch him play and you watch him have time and he's surveying the field, he's still like not seeing wide open wide receivers. I agree.
Here's the problem, Dave. I'm watching the tape too. I'm not seeing wide open receivers. You know, nobody's getting open, right? I mean, you can only blame so much on the kid. And I think it's the same situation as Zach Wilson. You know, I'm hearing a lot of people bagging on Wilson and bagging on Fields. How about an offensive line that keeps getting the guy killed?
Yeah. Look, I think Justin Fields has way more upside than Zach Wilson does at this point. But when I sort of looked at this game, part of this for me is about coaching. And it's about the coach that's at the end of his tenure and the coach that's at the beginning of his tenure. And so I'm going to go ahead and take Sean Payton because I believe the Broncos, Sean's going to get this thing turned around to a degree. They should be able to handle that less than aggressive, less than scary Bears defense. So I like the Broncos. And, look, Russell Wilson hasn't played that bad. He's been okay, which is better than he was last year at the start of the season. I like the Broncos on the road. I think, any week now, there's going to be a clearing of the house in Chicago.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think there will. I just didn't like that 3.5. I thought it was a little rich. If it was 1.5, something like that, or even, I could even see the Bears being favored after that performance by the Broncos. But I just got that extra hook, that 3.5. I just feel like it's a field goal game.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of rich lines, Mr. Oizef, the next game we have is the Chiefs at the New York Jets. And the line on this game is 9 points. And the Chiefs got significantly better last week with Taylor Swift in the stands. And I don't know if you've seen any of the great TikTok videos out there, Brad, but there's a great TikTok video of a lady telling her husband that Taylor Swift made Travis Kelce. Nobody knew who Travis Kelce was before. It is an absolutely legendary video. It's hilarious. So I look at this game and I think, look, Zach Wilson hasn't shown me anything different so far this year that he showed us last year or during his rookie season in the National Football League. I am not seeing what you're seeing at this point. I get Justin Fields. He's a different style quarterback. He's probably just in the wrong system there. But Zach Wilson, there isn't a system in the National Football League that will actually work for Zach Wilson at this point. I'm not even sure the USFL/XFL, which is going to go through a merger, which was announced earlier today, if they would even find a place for Zach Wilson in their league. That is how bad Zach Wilson has been. And I know about the offensive line. I get it. But still, I like the Chiefs in this one, and I'm willing to give up the rich 9, if you will.
Yeah, it's pretty torn on this one. I know I put the Jets in there. I'm just I'm trying to figure out why, Dave. But no, look, this is one of my big beefs all week long, was this whole Zach Wilson thing. Dave, how many games did Aaron Rodgers win for the Jets?
Well,
Zero. And there's notes saying that he would have won a game so far with the Jets. We don't know. All we know is that the offensive line got him hurt after 4 plays, right? And so you can only blame so much on the kid. You got to put some stuff around him. I like the young wide receiver. The running back still coming back from the ACL. I just like Robert Saleh in this thing. I think the Jets have got to put something together. It's 9.5, something like that. I'm gonna gamble on this. So I'm taking the Jets. I just get a feeling that they're gonna finally show up on the road. They won't have anybody to boo them first and foremost, right? So I say the Jets overperform. They lose the game, but I think they beat the 9.
Oh, wow. I thought for sure you were in flip-flop territory. I'm happy to see you take the Jets in this one. And speaking of the Aaron Rodgers injury, when you go back and you look at that tape, that injury can be specifically put on the actual offensive line coach who is teaching those chop blocks. And that was like a crazy style block for them to have on that particular play call that Aaron Rodgers should have never been touched. But I will say this, like my guess is that, Rodgers was probably hurt already. Like, in other words, like he was probably going to get hurt with the same injury. The hit wasn't that bad.
No, that was an old man injury. That was an old man injury, is what that was.
Exactly. He's 40, and Joe Douglas, the GM of the New York Jets, who I thought has done a really nice job with the Jets for the most part the last couple of years. When you have Boyle as your backup, your third quarterback to Zach Wilson in the quarterback room. I mean, one of my favorite shows, they talk about Boyle a lot, and they said, well, in college, Boyle threw 1 touchdown and 13 picks. And that's so, like, this is an organizational issue with the Jets.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's more than Zach Wilson, but he's really taking it right now. I mean, he's the guy that's taking it on the chin. But here's the reality: there was no guarantees Aaron Rodgers were going to lead that team to the playoffs. They might have only won 4 or 5 games. The offensive line isn't any good. You put an old quarterback behind it, he's going to get hurt. Yeah. I don't think they expected it was going to happen that quickly.
Yeah.
But my question is, the big fear for the Jets now is what happens if Zach Wilson gets hurt, right? I mean, then they'll be blaming the other kid, the next kid in line. So I don't know. They got a long ways to go. The Jets. It's a steep hill.
They're signing Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, that's not a rescue plan. That's a Band-Aid is what that is. And so, they got a big hill to climb this week. I say they climb it a little bit and beat that 9, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
All right, next one I got is the Bengals at the Titans. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because as bad as Fields has been and as bad as Zach Wilson's been, I think the worst quarterback in the league right now is Ryan Tannehill. I mean, I watch that guy play. He doesn't look like he knows how to play the game anymore.
Which is exactly why the Ryan Tannehill trade rumors to the New York Jets broke about an hour and a half ago, Brad.
Yeah.
Because the Jets want to go get the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Right. And so the Bengals, I thought they kind of woke up a little bit in the second half. They finally figured out that they had a kid named Jamar Chase on the roster, and they started throwing to him last week. To me, this is one of the easier games of the week. Bengals at the Titans. I know it's Bengals by 2.5. I thought that was a pretty low line. If it had been, 3.5, 4, it would have been more of a push for me. But I think it's a field. I just think the Bengals are a better football team. Ryan Tannehill just looks awful. I mean, he looks terrible. And so I'm going to take the Bengals and give that 2.5.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel with the. I've been studying film from 1975. Give me that style offense, please. Just absolutely terrible. I agree that the Bengals are going to win this game. Look, Burrow's still really hurt. That injury is not going to, suddenly heal itself 7 days later. You're probably looking at another 3 or 4 weeks of struggles for Burrow before that calf injury is fully healed. So I mean, look, the Titans are the enigma, and they have been the enigma in the National Football League for the last couple of years. Every time you think they can't get any worse with Ryan Tannehill, they somehow figure out how to make the playoffs. So it's just one of those games that I'm sure is going to be, at some point I'm going to end up texting you going, can you believe the Titans are winning in the third? But the Bengals will come back and win and cover it.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't. I can't even watch Ryan Tannehill. I mean, they haven't been the same since A.J. Brown left. They really haven't answered that and added any weapons for him. He just looks like a guy that's aged about 20 years in the last 12 months.
Yeah. All right, Brad, moving on. The number is, I believe it's 14. Just 14 points is the difference in the Minnesota Vikings losses in the first 3 games of the season. It's like the exact opposite of what happened last year with winning those close games has happened. They can't seem to hold on to the football. Now they get to go to Carolina and play against the Panthers. I haven't got official word yet. I don't know if you have on Bryce Young. I heard he was practicing. I hope we get to see Bryce Young as opposed to the Red Rifle. But I really and it will be good to see. I mean, like, look, the Vikings are missing Dalvin Cook, despite what you might want to say about running backs, and they're absolutely missing Adam Thielen, because if they still had Adam Thielen, if they had just ponied up a couple more bucks for Adam Thielen and kept him, he would have won that game in the end zone, in the back of the end zone for Kirk Cousins. Adam Thielen was Kirk Cousins' blanket for years, and they absolutely missed Adam Thielen on that series against the Chargers. Anyways, going into this game, I think the Vikes just have way too much power. I think they're going to end up winning this. And I actually believe, the stat is 0-3 football teams, less than 1% actually make the playoffs. The Vikes are going to be in a position. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but they're going to be in a position to beat those odds, I believe.
Dave, how many starting defensive players can you name for the Vikings? I can't. I don't know. I couldn't tell you any. I mean, that's the word. That defense is just horrendous. And
you're not in love with Pace Jr.?
No, I'm not in love with anything on that roster.
Harrison Smith.
You know how I feel about Cousins. I don't like
2 years ago.
You know how I feel about Cousins. I don't like him. I'm just seeing nothing there. I don't think it's the loss of Dalvin Cook. I mean, the defense is just so bad, and the Chargers did everything they could to give that game away, and the Vikings just wouldn't take it. And so, Kevin O'Connell, I think you got to hold the presses on whether or not this guy's an NFL-ready coach. I mean, last year he won all the close games. Those things tend to even their way out, though. And I saw some things last year in terms of X's and O's and play calling I didn't like. I see more of it now. The clock management thing at the end was a disaster. I'm still seeing Cousins do this thing right here, Dave, with a minute and a half left on the clock. And I would hope that my quarterback that's been in the league 10 years would know how to run a 2-minute offense and not have to take plays from the sidelines. And so, but I'm with you. I'm taking the Vikes. I'm giving the 3.5. I think they're desperate. I think they're a better roster than the Panthers offensively. I don't think that Carolina can match point for point. And I think that's what this one is. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think the Vikes win by, 7-8 points, something like that.
I just want you to know, America or North America, that Brad Hoyseth, who was doing the hand Kirk Cousin gestures, has been doing that and complaining about that for years. And this was the first time that the national media actually caught on to it. And actually there was talk across several of the sports shows this week so far with Kirk Cousins and his hands on his ears. So Hoyseth, a trendsetter, well ahead of his time.
What's he making? $43 million a year? You ought to know how to run a 2-minute offense for that, Dave.
You ought to know to spike the ball there.
A lot of things.
It's just like, how do you not know that?
I don't know. I'm going into my next one though. Washington's at Philly. I'm hitting the over/under on this one. It's 44.5, and I still think Philly's kind of sputtering. I don't think they're quite as, even though they've won, and that's a good thing. It's a good quality to have, not playing your best football and winning. But I just get a sense though that their offense is really ready to bust out, and I really like some of the things Washington's doing. So I thought the 44.5 was a low over/under. I'm going to hit the over on that. Washington at Philly.
Brad, do you know who's been sacked most in the National Football League? And I'll help you out. It's not Kirk Cousins.
Probably Sam Howell.
There you go. 19
Get a rough weekend.
19 times has Sam Howell gone down. And, that's that's a lot of that is inexperience in the position. I'm with you on the Eagles. Figuring out how to win games when you're not at your best is a good quality to have. So I think this Eagle team, I thought the Eagles looked really good at the start of their last game, and then just couldn't punch it in initially and had to settle for a couple field goals initially. So I like the Eagles a lot in this. Washington isn't as bad as you think they are. They're all right. 44 points is a little scary if Philadelphia somehow doesn't get things going. You can't really count on Washington to take advantage. I mean, Sam Howell's not going to have any time to do anything against that Philadelphia Eagle defense. So, I'm with you. I thought about going with the under. I was pretty close on it, but I am going to go with the over as well.
I'm saying go ahead, Thurston Howell or Sam Howell, whatever the hell your name is. I'll go with Thurston Howell. He's looked slower than Thurston Howell in the first couple of weeks. The guy's getting killed out there, but no, I mean I like some of their weapons. I like Terry McLaurin a lot, and I just think that they're a better football team. I'm with you. I think they're a better football team than what you're hearing out there about them, and I just think that the Eagles been a little bit suspect so far. So. These two teams, they know each other really well. Expect a good game. I think it goes over.
One of the great nicknames in National Football League history, Scary Terry McLaurin. I absolutely love that. All right, moving on. Raiders at your, Brad, Los Angeles Chargers, who have your favorite head coach, which is, when they let him go, then you're going to end up with Kellen Moore. And you're going to be just as mad when Kellen Moore is there for 3 years also. They are literally, I know you're not a big NBA guy, but it's like they're doing to Justin Herbert what the Dallas Mavericks are doing to Luka Doncic, which is not surrounding him with the right pieces. Anyways, Raiders at the Chargers. Mike Williams is out, terrible injury for him. They've got so many other weapons to sort of jump in and fill. The Raiders look like an absolute mess. I mean, you got the Chicago head coach. You got Josh McDaniels. Who's going to the unemployment line first, I think is the question. Josh McDaniels is like, I have wanted to like Josh McDaniels. I was happy he got a second chance. I thought he got the raw deal in Denver, and it turns out I was wrong. He's a mess as a head coach. Offensive coordinator, I'm not so sure. Offensive coordinator when Tom Brady's the quarterback, absolutely. But beyond all of that, I don't know. Anyways, Raiders, Chargers are favored by 5.5 in this one. And I give up the points and take the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna take the Raiders. To me, it's just 5.5 is a lot for two teams that are very suspect. I look at the Raiders. I think they're kind of desperate. The Chargers kind of got lucky to win, and they're saying that this is going to be a fairly high scoring affair. 47.5. Is the over-under. So I'm going to go in the other direction. I think the Raiders, I think they're embarrassed about last weekend. The Chargers should be, but I don't think Brendan Staley is cognizant enough to be embarrassed by it. So I just can't bet on Brendan Staley. I can't do it. And 5.5 seems very rich for my blood. I'm going Raiders. There's nothing about the Raiders I like, Dave. In fact, other than the fact that they don't have Staley as their coach.
I mean, Devontae Adams. There's a couple things to like. Josh Jacobs and
I think Jacobs will have a field day this week. I really do. I think he's due for a breakout game.
Yeah. And I'm really not impressed with, Kellen Moore's offensive strategy so far with the Chargers. So look, it's a Raider Charger game, regardless of who the coaches are, the players are. These things tend to be shootouts or tend to be a lot closer than you think. So I can't give you too much of a hard time for not going with the Chargers on this one. Not changing my mind, but I think you're crazy for taking the Raiders. But anyways.
Well, I've made a lot of crazy picks this year so far, Dave, which might explain why I haven't done too well. But I've been a little bit busy. My head hasn't been in the game. So I'm going to take another one here that could go either way. It's the Rams at the Colts. The Colts are a 1-point favorite. I just get a sense the Rams are a little bit better football team this year. I don't know what it is. Nakua has given them a little spark.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to spoil somebody's day down the road. I don't know if it's the Colts or not, but I'm going to take the Rams on the road. I think they've actually looked and played pretty well the first 3 weeks of the season. So I think, and I think the Colts have played pretty well too. It's a tight battle. Just get a sense the Rams on the road are going to win one.
Yeah, I could go either way with this. This is like, I was like, why did Brad even take this game? This is my least favorite game you've taken so far this year. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to go with the Colts at home. I think Gardner Minshew is going to start. They'll do some run control offense thing, and then occasionally Gardner will throw the ball down to Pittman. The Colts defense is a little bit better than we think it is. I don't know. Like, I agree. The Rams are probably better this year than they are last year. Some of the young players are playing really nicely. They finally got rid of their Cam Akers situation, which is now a Minnesota Viking problem, which is a total headache because the kid's a head case and has very little talent to suffer through the head caseness you have to deal with Cam Akers. You just
dime a dozen, Dave. They're a dime a dozen.
I wouldn't say that, but anyways, I'm going to stick with the Colts in this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Dave, I have to be honest with you. I don't know why I picked that game. No chance I'm going to watch it. Sean McVay's still living off his Super Bowl thing, but they haven't looked good for a year and a half. But I kept the sense that they're kind of keeping the quarterback a little more upright this year. Nakua has given them a little bit of a spark. Backup quarterback for the Colts, so that's the biggest difference in this one for me.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. The Seattle Seahawks are flying to the East Coast. Oh, so long, such a long flight to do battle with the New York Giants. The Giants are actually favored by 1.5 in this game. I just have very little faith in the Giants at this point. I think the real Giants organization has shown up to this point so far this season. And once again, we see it with Pete Carroll being able to get a lot out of his players. I don't see them flying all the way across the country to lay an egg the way the Giants did when they flew out to Santa Clara to do battle with the 49ers. Carroll, he was a great college coach as well as a great NFL coach. And I think every time he's back in New York, there's a little bit of extra. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to you. Close game, but I'm gonna take the Seahawks running game's been great so far, and their passing game is good enough to beat Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think it's a tight battle. I mean, I think the Giants are one of the more disappointing teams in the league so far this year. I mean, I had higher expectations for them than what they've shown, that's for sure. And, Pete Carroll, like you said, he does like playing in the big city in the big moment. And so I'm with you. I'm going to take the Seahawks. 1.5 points they're going to get on the road in New York. Daniel Jones doesn't look very good. The running game there hasn't looked very good. I think the teams are built about the same way, that whole ball control thing. Yeah. I just think the Seahawks are playing a little better at it right now than our Giants are. So I'm going to take the Seahawks beating the Giants at their own game.
Yeah. I just, Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback, speaking of making like $40 million a year, Brad, I mean, yeah, it is, Brian Daboll, who I really like as a head coach, is going to have to they need to win this game. I mean, this is a game the Giants should win. And I just don't have enough. I just haven't seen enough to say that they're going to do that at home against a Pete Carroll led football team, which is, you can tell, is starting to sort of figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Seahawks and they have gamers. They have guys that play hard. Yeah. Tyler Lockett and the other big wide receiver, and they always seem to have running backs that run hard. And Pete Carroll has a way of getting his teams ready to play. I just haven't seen that out of the Giants this year at all.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, I'm going to go to my last game. Steelers at the Texans. Steelers are a 3-point favorite. I thought that was a little bit low, so I hit that. I think the Steelers are starting to find themselves a little bit. I'd be a lot more comfortable with them if they would find their running game, however, Dave. That would be nice. They just have not been able to get anything going in the running game with Najee Harris. We saw signs of the passing game breaking out a little bit last week, but the defense has played really well and the last few games. And so I'm going to take the Steelers on the road to win in Houston.
I was trying to think, who was the last great Pittsburgh Steeler running back?
Le'Veon Bell. I don't know.
There you go. And since then, it's just, it's a disaster at the position.
James Conner. They had James Conner for a year or so, right?
Yeah, Conner had one good season, and James Conner is really good. He's a goal line running back, right? Especially at this stage of his career. So if you need some cheap fantasy points, James Conner always seems to be available if your running back goes down in the middle of the week. It's my fantasy football recommendation for you. But I like the Steelers defense, which is really what I like here. I think they'll do enough on the offensive side. And I think they're going to get to CJ Stroud and get a lot of pressure on him that he hasn't experienced yet in the National Football League. So he's played the best out of the rookie quarterbacks to this point, way better than I thought he was going to play. So, be interesting to see how he deals with, I expected the Steelers to be a top 5 defense. I don't quite think they're there yet as a top 5 defense in the National Football League, but they're that tier after that. And that will be the hardest defense that the Texans have gone against so far. So I'm with you. I'm taking the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that Texans schedule so far. They played the Ravens. They only scored 9. They played the Colts, only scored 20. And then also they had looked pretty good in beating the Jaguars, and who I think the Jaguars are one of those teams that could be a sleeper to go deep into the playoffs this year. So they've been tricky. Stroud's looked pretty good. I just think he's going to get a dose of something this weekend from Pittsburgh that he hasn't seen all year long. And so I expect some bumps and bruises.
I think the Jaguars team has been reading press clippings heading into the season. They asked Doug Peterson that question, and he basically said yes, that they were reading their own press clippings. That's such a dangerous thing for a young football team to do. So I think that this could be a step back season for the Jags. Anyways, moving on to our last game of the week, the New England Patriots at the Dallas Cowboys. And nobody laid an egg in the National Football League like the Dallas Cowboys did last week, to the point, Brad, where I was questioning my prediction that the Cowboys would at least make it to the Super Bowl. Because quite frankly, the 49ers and even despite the fact that the Eagles haven't looked great, have been better than the Cowboys. And to lose to the Cardinals is one thing, but to get beat by the Cardinals is a whole other thing. Talk about head coaches who have parlayed a Super Bowl victory into a long-time career in one Mike McCarthy. So we'll have to see what happens with this team. Look, I believe they'll get some things situated. The Patriots have like a decent passing attack. They've got a decent running game. This game isn't going to be a blowout, but I think the Cowboys are actually going to end up winning by 10. They've got to right the ship here. I like the Cowboys in this one, but that crazy Bill Belichick, you never know. He could be the old man from Scooby-Doo. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those darn kids.
Dave, while you were talking, I was in changing my bet on that. I was with you. I was on the Cowboys, and Bill Belichick doesn't lose many games by 7 or more.
Yeah,
he just doesn't. I mean, you beat him, and it's a chess match. And I don't think Mike McCarthy knows how to play chess. So if that's a bad analogy, let me know. But look, the Cowboys are a more talented squad. But the Patriots just have a way of taking away one or two options and making you feel uncomfortable. And I didn't like what I saw from the Cowboys at all last week. And I say it runs for another week. I thought 7 was a really big line to begin with. I was going to agree with you and go with the Cowboys, but I just can't do it. I can't go against Bill Belichick getting 7 points on the road. I can't. I haven't seen as much out of the Cowboys. The offense of the Cowboys, I still don't think is there.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, you might even convince me to flip back over to the Patriots at this point. I just want to show a little faith in the team that I picked to go all the way. I didn't say to win it, but to actually be there. Dak Prescott actually has looked a little old, a little like his passes didn't seem to have a lot of zip on them. Everything seemed to be like their offense seems to be in sort of like slow motion, like they're in mini camp. So I don't know quite what the deal is there. I think they'll figure it out. But I do know, Brad, speaking of chess, that defensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator does know how to play chess, and will certainly do a good job against Mac Jones and that Patriot offense.
Yeah, here's one thing that hasn't been talked about much with the Cowboys. Their offensive line is not what it used to be. I mean, I'm watching Tony Pollard get the ball. He's getting hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And he does not have the space to operate that I think a lot of people thought he was going to have. And I was one of those guys. I thought Pollard was a guy that might lead the league in total yardage this year. I mean, they
had 3 offensive linemen out against Arizona. I think they're getting 2 of them back this week.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see that, assuming that happens, I think you'll see that change. If they don't, then Tony Pollard's not going to get any yards because there aren't going to be any yards to get.
Yeah. That to me, their offense goes through those running backs. It makes Prescott a much more dangerous player. And if they're not running the ball well, he all of a sudden becomes a very, very mediocre quarterback.
Yep. All right. There you go. It's our top 10 games worth actually spending some money on for week 4. One last quick question for you, Brad, before we get out of here. Who's the best team in the National Football League today?
Wow. Is there really a front runner right now?
If I rephrase the question, if the Super Bowl was on Sunday, who would be in the game?
I think the 49ers and the Eagles have both looked very, very good. I think the Bills have played pretty well. I wouldn't say the Chiefs right now would be playing in the Super Bowl. And I'm sure there's one or two teams out there I'm missing, but how about you?
This is like the.
How about your Lions? How about your Detroit Lions?
The correct answer is the Dolphins versus the 49ers. Those have been the two teams that, if the Super Bowl were on Sunday, playing the way they're playing at this point, because the 49ers have played better than the Eagles so far. It's not to say that's not going to change as the season goes on. And the Dolphins have been, obviously a very good team. But, I like Buffalo. Buffalo has played well, man.
How about your Detroit Lions, Dave?
We'll see what happens tonight.
It's an intriguing matchup tonight.
It is. Well, it's. I'm really gonna get to sit down and watch Jordan Love tonight, because I haven't had a chance to really pay too much attention. So,
are you gonna take out the board and you're gonna start marking plays that he does right and does wrong, or you're gonna sit back as a fan and watch? I mean, I think you're gonna be taking notes at this deal.
No.
We're gonna see Jordan Love's parents in the stands tonight, Dave.
I've been up since 7 a.m. working, so the laptop will be off, and I will be in full. Maybe have a glass of red, and that will be it. All right. That is it for Gods of Odds this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBopp in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.